is inherently mental. Matter is always, in all cases, without exception, without a single exception, matter is always what mind looks like. Concrete materiality is just mental state.
What if the most dangerous lie you've ever believed is that the world around you is solid? But imagine if none of it exists the way you think it does.
The world as it is in itself is mental. Physicality is what that mental world looks like to us when we observe it, when we represent it in our internal dashboard. And then we get the material universe.
What if the reality you've built your entire life on is just a clever illusion? One designed to keep you from noticing what's actually going on.
There is only mind. What we call matter is a mental impression. You know, if I hold this glass and feel its solidity and weight, these are mental qualities. Solidity and weight are qualities in my conscious states. What we call matter is simply a specific type of mental state, which are perceptual states. The things we see, hear, touch, smell, and taste.
This was Dr. Bernardo Kastrup, a former CERN scientist exposing reality. And if what he's saying is true, then everything from your thoughts to your house to your very sense of self might not be what it seems. We grow up believing there are two kinds of things in the world: stuff outside us and thoughts inside. A cup is out there. The feeling of thirst is here. That's the foundation of materialism, the belief that reality is made of matter, and the mind is just something that emerges from it, like steam from boiling water. But Dr. Bernardo Kastrup says this is exactly where modern science took a wrong turn. According to his theory, analytic idealism, the mind isn't a byproduct of matter. It's the container in which everything, including matter, appears.
The variety of matter represents the appearance of the variety of mental states and mental dynamics. So the brain is what your mental inner life looks like. The inanimate universe is what the mental inner life of mind at large looks like. Matter is always what mental states look like.
In a 2019 paper published in Philosophy and Cosmology, Kastrup and co-authors laid out a controversial but carefully reasoned argument. Consciousness isn't something that brains produce. It's the one thing that cannot be reduced to anything else. Everything we call reality, from physical objects to logical patterns to emotional responses, is a modulation of consciousness, not something separate from it. Think about your daily life. When you touch a glass of water, you're not really touching atoms. You're experiencing coldness, weight, texture, all of which are sensations, processed within awareness. When you look at the sky, you're not seeing blue as a property of the atmosphere. You're having a visual experience of blue inside your mind. At no point have you ever interacted with the outside world directly. According to Kastrup, you've only ever known it through experience, and experience is mental.
So behind this very concrete materiality, we know that at least in the case of the nervous system of human beings, behind that, underlying that concrete materiality is just mental states. Your sorrows, your desires, your regrets, your feeling of hunger, the redness of a strawberry, the sweetness of the strawberry when you eat it, and that all appears to others in the form of very concrete matter.
You look around and think you're seeing reality. Light bounces off objects, enters your eyes, and you see the world. But that's not what's actually happening. What your brain gives you isn't raw reality. It's a translation. Kastrup compares it to flying a plane.
You are in an airplane, the airplane has sensors, it makes measurements of the sky, the clouds outside, and those measurements are presented to the pilot in the form of dial indications on a dashboard. If the plane is not flying around the sky, there are no dashboard representations, but the sky is still there, right? So under analytic idealism, matter is a dashboard representation. When there are no planes flying around, in other words, when there are no living beings looking around, there is no matter, because matter is a dashboard representation. You need a dashboard to have a dashboard representation. But the thing that is represented, the sky, the clouds, that is always there, whether you're flying around in a plane or not, whether there is a dashboard or not.
Kastrup says that's exactly what matter is, a dashboard readout. The pilot doesn't need to see the actual sky, just a set of gauges on the dashboard. The dials report information like altitude, airspeed, and direction. It's useful. It's accurate enough to keep the plane flying. But it's not the sky. It's a representation. This isn't just a philosophical metaphor. It aligns with decades of research in cognitive science. In the case against reality from 2020, cognitive scientist Donald Hoffman argues that evolution didn't wire us to see the truth. It wired us to see what keeps us alive. If we saw reality unfiltered, it would be overwhelming, even lethal. So we evolved to see a simplified interface, a user-friendly version of reality. Not the machine, just the icons. And here's where it gets unsettling. If the dashboard only lights up when someone is there to read it, then what happens when no one's looking? Kastrup takes that seriously. If no one is present, no conscious mind, no perception, then the dashboard doesn't just go dark, it doesn't exist at all.
All matter, in your body and otherwise, is the outside appearance of mental states. There is an inanimate world out there, made of matter. So under that hypothesis that matter is always the external appearance of mental states, the inanimate universe must be the external appearance of mental states too. Those mental states that correspond to the inanimate universe are what we call mind at large.
Before we go on, let's get back to Dr. Bernardo.
The brain is simply what mental activity looks like when observed from the outside. So you don't even get to, then mental activity creates the brain. Well, in a sense, yes, but it's not deliberate. It's not an act of creation. It's a spontaneous thing. The brain is what mental processes look like. It's the appearance of it. It's like asking, does combustion create flames? Well, flames are what combustion looks like.
So when you hold a stone, what you're really touching isn't an object in space. You're interacting with a stable pattern of conscious dynamics rendered into form. It's not the thing, it's the interface to the thing. Your senses are decoding meaning, not measuring mass. And what we call physical reality is more like a shared hallucination. Consistent, yes, but built entirely inside experience. This is where everything flips. According to Kastrup, you're not a small creature moving through a big universe. You are the universe, just not all at once. His claim is startling but precise. There is only one mind in existence, one field of awareness, endlessly complex, constantly generating new patterns. Everything we call individuals, humans, animals, even trees, are dissociated aspects of that one field. In other words, the universe is having conversations with itself through you, through me, through everything. It sounds abstract until you realize it mirrors what we already know about the mind. In psychiatry, dissociation is a well-documented phenomenon. A 2014 review published in The Lancet Psychiatry examined patients with dissociative identity disorder, showing that a single brain can host multiple centers of consciousness, each with distinct memories, beliefs, even handwriting, yet all contained within one person. Kastrup applies this concept globally. What looks like separation between you and a stranger, between humans and animals, is an illusion generated by dissociative boundaries. Pay close attention to what he has to say about it.
Appearances arise when there is a boundary between the observer and the observed. If they are not distinct, there are no appearances, because appearances are what something looks like from the outside. For there to be an outside, there has to be a division, a boundary between the inside and the outside. So the observer looks from the outside, and the observed exists in the inside, right? So how do appearances arise? When this boundary arises, when there can be one mind on one side of the boundary, or one segment of a mind on one side of the boundary, and another segment of a mind on the other side of the boundary. Now we have one observing the other from the outside being determined by that boundary. That boundary is a dissociative boundary.
We feel alone, not because we are, but because the universal mind has carved itself into localized identities, each temporarily unaware of the whole. You're not inside reality bumping into it, you're a fold within it, looping back on itself. And when that dissociation thins through meditation, trauma, psychedelics, or death, the illusion cracks. The ripple remembers the ocean, and the mask slips. If everything that exists is made of mind, and all forms are just modulations of one field of consciousness, then what do you call that field? Kastrup, without even flinching, calls it God.
That is omniscient, omnipresent, and omnipotent. And by the way, it's the only thing that exists. And it's you, and it's me, and it's the cat, and it's the amoeba, and it's the moons, and the black holes, and the stars, the whole shebang.
So divinity exists in your view?
Yeah.
How we may experience it differently, each of us, but it does exist in your view?
Of course, we are it.
But not the version handed down in Sunday school. not the humanized overseer with moods, plans, and punishments. This is something deeper, older, and far more intimate. Under analytic idealism, God is not a being. God is being itself. In this view, the divine isn't somewhere else. It's not up or above or behind. It's right here, right now, expressing itself through everything you see, including you. That tree growing through concrete? That's consciousness unfolding. The grief you felt when someone left? That's consciousness folding in on itself. And your intuition, the quiet feeling you can't explain? That may be the universe nudging itself through your awareness.
There's nothing except it. Everything else can be explained in terms of its excitations, its patterns of excitation and configurations. You can explain everything else, the whole phantasmagoria of nature. You can explain it in terms of universal consciousness. Therefore, universal consciousness is all you need. It's all there is. And therefore, it's omnipresent, by definition. If it's all there is, then it's omnipresent, right? It is a mind, so it is scient, from the omniscient, omni being meaning everywhere, and scient mean knowing. It's a mind, and whatever happens, happens in it, so it knows all. It may be dissociated. What it knows through me is not accessible to what it knows through you, but you and I are it.
For many people, this is where the conversation turns speculative. But under analytic idealism, what we label as paranormal isn't outside the model. It's baked into it. If all conscious beings are just local expressions of one universal mind, then the boundary between minds isn't absolute. It's a kind of membrane. And like any membrane, it can sometimes leak. Science has struggled for decades to explain strange moments, like sensing a loved one's pain from miles away, or waking up seconds before bad news arrives. Under materialism, these are anomalies, coincidences, misremembered events. But under Kastrup's framework, they're what you'd expect to happen every once in a while.
Telepathy can happen. Because dissociation, like any process in nature, is bound to not be perfect. We evolved to be dissociated, and we evolved to think that we are this bag of skin here, and not what's happening out there. So under analytic idealism, it's conceivable, even plausible, that under extraordinary circumstances, such as emotional upheaval, you could have telepathy going on between people who are effectively very connected to one another. I've seen it happen to somebody very close to me, and I don't doubt that it happens. I go as far as to say telepathy is common. We just don't metacognize it. We don't pay attention to it.
Kastrup says these aren't miracles. They're microfractures in the illusion of separateness. Consciousness doesn't stop at the skull. And when emotional intensity spikes, grief, fear, love, those boundaries can thin. One ripple begins to feel the tremor of another. And even when we treat time like it's an external force, ticking forward whether we want it to or not. But what if that's not what time actually is?
Time and space exist only in here. We create time and space as a sort of a filing system for information about the world. Even physics with loop quantum gravity is going to the direction of thinking of time as not fundamental, as an emergent property of more fundamental structures in reality.
Kastrup argues that time doesn't flow out there. It unfolds within us. Under analytic idealism, time isn't a fundamental property of the universe. It's a structural tool of consciousness, a way to organize experience into something coherent. This isn't just a theory. A 2024 study in Current Biology found that the brain doesn't measure time the way a clock does. Instead, it builds time based on internal markers, memory, perception, emotional change. When nothing changes, time seems to slow. When your mind is busy, it speeds up. That's mental formatting. In other words, time is a narrative device, something the mind uses to file events into order. If that's true, then birth isn't the start of consciousness. And death, it isn't the end. It's a transition, like turning a page in a story that was always being written. So take a moment and think of everything as mental, and your mind is a ripple in a larger sea of consciousness. Then what does that mean for free will? Do you really choose, or are you just playing out a script written somewhere beyond your reach? Kastrup's answer is both unsettling and freeing. You do make choices, but not in the way we like to imagine.
Other people define free will implicitly differently. Some people think of free will as libertarian free will. And what that means is whatever I do, I could have done otherwise. That is probably incoherent. Even though you did make a choice, you made the only choice you could make because you are who you were. You were who you were. Your choice is determined by that which you are. You do make that choice. In that sense, you have free will, in the sense that you have agency. I can make a choice. But your choice is determined by that which you are. And you can't be other than what you are. And therefore, there is no could have been. So yes, we all make choices. But that may not be libertarian in the sense that we like to think that we could have made other choices. Maybe no. Maybe we couldn't. Maybe the environment would have allowed you to make other choices. But you were who you were. And by being who you were, you had to make the choice you made. There is no could have been.
Most people think of free will as the ability to choose otherwise, to zig instead of zag. Kastrup challenges that assumption. He says your choices emerge from who you are in that moment, and who you are is the product of countless layers of memory, structure, and experience. So could you have chosen differently? Probably not. It's just that you're not writing the script from scratch. But you are the only one who can reveal it. And every choice you make reflects a new angle of reality that has never been seen before. If your choices reveal what the universe is becoming, then free will isn't about rewriting the rules, it's about discovering who you already are. Maybe the unsettling part isn't that life is a dream, it's that you're the dreamer, and you forgot. Kastrup offers a mirror. If you mistake the dashboard for the sky, the brain for the mind, the object for the source, you'll spend your life looking outward, never inward. But if you stop, even briefly, you might realize you've never left the mind of the universe. You are it, waking up. And if you felt something was off, like reality never quite added up, maybe you weren't wrong.